What is good? We're back. Welcome into the football show powered by Profit X. Week 4 is in the books. We had some stinkers on the slate, but we also had some upsets and some really solid endings, crescendoing on a tie on Sunday night. We'll see how the Monday night games go. But if we start at Carolina and New England, not much of a fight there, 42-13. New England rolls. Carolina back to the cellar dweller, right?
30-0 last week, like you said, right? It's the NFL.
Yeah.
Carolina beat the Falcons 30-0 last week. This week they get rolled at the Patriots. You gotta like where the Patriots are headed.
Sure. I mean, we kind of talked about it last week of like, as things go on, like we'll see this Patriots team, I think, get better and better. I don't know how much the offense will continue to get extremely better because I don't know that they necessarily have the playmakers to get to a highly functional offense, but I think this defense will continue to get better and better. Special teams, they're going to have all the phases kind of going. Carolina's just seems to be really up and down. Can't quite figure it out. So we got Houston blanking Tennessee 26-0. Woody Marks, I think, is the big story from this one. I've been clamoring for it for a few weeks. You saw the pass pro. Everyone had pass pro highlight of Woody on this one, but he got a bunch of carries in this one, got some checkdowns in this one. We got all sorts of good Woody Marks stuff in this one. So that was what I was most excited about. On the Tennessee side, you have to start to worry about, a lot of people coming out is Cam a bust? So what do you think?
Man, there was a bad interception off of Allimander's hands in the second half, and they were trying to cut to a commercial, and right before the cameras turned off to the game, you could see Cam Ward going, patting him on the shoulder. Like as bad as everything was, they're getting shut out, can't catch a break. Cam delivers a strike, hits him in the hands to the wide receiver, a fellow rookie, Alec Allimander, however you say that, and it pops off his hands. The defense picks it off, and the rookie quarterback who's been getting shelled goes over there and pats his young fellow rookie wide receiver on the back and says, "We got this, all good." Like that's all I needed to see. He didn't throw his hands up and say, "Hey man, I put the ball where it needed to be, and you blew it." Like it's, "Hey, we're in this together." Like I'm buying Cam Ward for the Titans. I mean, there's a lot that you can't buy about him right now, but I'll, from the top down, but I'm sticking by Cam Ward for sure. That told me everything I needed to know right there.
Fantasy wise, I mean, I wasn't expecting anything to be super startable from Cam because the positions the Titans are kind of in. I think he's getting close to having the first head coach fired. It looks just ugly over there. Definitely not vibing. And couldn't have been more wrong with the Calvin Ridley thing. His snap percentage this week was down. And I wonder if there's a Calvin Ridley trade here that happens and they just kind of let this team move forward without him on this team and see where they're at with the current roster, the interim coach, and then see kind of where to go next year. But I'm still fully in Cam's camp for this one. New Orleans goes to Buffalo, hangs tough, but nobody circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. 31-19. I thought the Saints had a good thing going up into the third quarter. What was impressive is they did run the ball. Now, obviously we've seen teams run the ball on the Bills throughout the course of the season here, but we saw Kendre Miller get going in this one, averaging 5.9 with a touchdown. We saw Alvin Kamara get going in this one. We finally got some Alvin Kamara targets. This Saints offense has a lot of improving to do. The Saints in general have a lot of improving to do, but it was more of a battle than I think most anticipated. So it was good to see, but at the end of the day, the Bills are one of the best teams in the league and they take care of business.
Definitely. Yeah. The Saints had no business being in the game. And that's why the NFL, man, it comes back, said it last week, like 6 times about 6 different games. The Buffalo Bills were probably a lot of people survivor pick this week. And nobody ever thought the game was really up for grabs, really, but it was a much better game and much better fight out of the Saints than certainly Vegas didn't expect it. It was like 14.5 point spread or something. So
yeah,
it was, and then the Saints were driving and there was another, a late turnover. So it was impressive. You see, just all you need out of the opposing team is some offense. And then you get Josh having to play offense, right? It's not as much fun when the Bills are up 35 in the second half and the Bills offense gets to take the afternoon off. right? It's a lot more fun to see the Bills play football for almost 4 quarters. To just, so that was a fun game to watch, surprisingly.
For sure. Got a screen in the second half just because I wasn't planning on having to watch much of that one. So
exactly, same.
Got a screen late. Same. So Commanders at Falcons. Falcons bounce back 34-27. Obviously, Mariota revenge game didn't quite work out. Penix bouncing back after this week after addressing the team, saying, hey, I need to be better. Penix was just awful last week. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And you just good to see him bounce back after a bad week. The Commanders, Marcus Mariota's at the helm. You get a dub, you get a loss. It's fine. Everything's fine. I don't really have too much to say of the makeup of the Commanders at this point. We'll see what happens when Jaden Daniels is back at the helm.
I thought the Commanders for the second week look respectable without their quarterback, right? And that's big for me.
And Terry.
Yes. Yeah, that too. And for the Falcons, like they got beat 30-0 last week. And against the Panthers, who doesn't show up to play any other opponent apparently in the NFL so far. But that's this last 7 days for the Falcons has been Penix is terrible. The complete caught up in the moment reaction, and that's fine. Like, this is the NFL is the best. Everybody's watching. Everybody wants to show how smart they are every week, giving their opinions on things. And Penix was the worst last week. It was like, oh, well, this is what he was doing in college, and he doesn't really throw he doesn't lean into his throws, or his footwork's off, and you can't throw that pass over there with your foot pointed the wrong way. And then obviously come back and handle business yesterday. And then I just saw an interview with Bijan Robinson this morning. It was obviously after the game yesterday, but there was a reporter in the locker room saying, Bijan, is your offense unstoppable? And it was one of the most level-headed, outside of quarterbacks, Bijan is one of the best offensive weapons in the league, right? He was the first pick in fantasy football for a reason. And for somebody who has every right to be a diva, it was the best back and forth. And, he's saying, well, our offense can do big things, but look, as soon as we heard all the praise, we got beat by 30 last week. He's like, I take it on myself to make it my job to keep our offense level and grounded. And yeah, we need to do big things like this. But last week, look what happened. We got beat by 30. And I just thought that's all you could ever ask for out of your, the face of the franchise. Of course, the quarterback's the face of the franchise, but Bijan Robinson, he's a darling and a fantasy football darling, and we all love him. And that was a cool, really cool, little back and forth that I urge you to go check out. You can probably find it pretty quickly on Twitter or YouTube.
Yeah, good to see the hex on Kyle Pitts, and Quentin Johnston has been removed. That finally it ran out because we got Kyle Pitts having a nice year. We have Quentin Johnston having a nice year. Good to see those guys back in the realm of things. Nice to see Drake London bouncing back after the whole Falcons offense, but 10 targets on this 110 yards, touchdown. And still a weird running back rotation for the Commanders there. So it's hard to trust anything going on there. But the run game seems pretty strong. So Commanders lose a tough one here, but I don't think there's any cause for concern there. And I still am not sure what Atlanta is. So we'll keep it moving here. Cleveland at Detroit. Obviously, just another great showing from the Detroit Lions. Week 1 was just an odd, a one-off of kind of where we thought Detroit might be heading, but they've since righted the ship. I don't know how much longer Joe Flacco's the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Our resident Cleveland Browns guy in our area, or in our chat, said, maybe another week they go across the pond, and then maybe a bye, and then they make a switch. I don't know who they make a switch to. Can we get Jameis Winston back in Cleveland? I don't know, but
that would be awesome.
Detroit is looking good. I mean, obviously, Packers tie last night, which is the next game we'll get to, but you see Detroit, and you were wondering how this game would go against this Browns defense that we just saw give it to Green Bay, and we've seen how well they've played all season long. But really not much of a contest here. Detroit was kind of all over them, and it felt like that one just really got away from Cleveland pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like the Lions managed the Browns defense, right? And the O line the last 3 weeks. Week 1, no offensive line against the Packers, and that was, of course, I'm a Lions fan, and that's what we came in here and talked about the most. Like that was my biggest talking point. And for the last 3 weeks, like you said, Casey, it's just been one game after another. They've been handling business, and of course, week 1 it was the Ben Johnson just left. How's Jared Goff going to do without Ben Johnson, and how's the offense going to do? And the Packers made it look terrible, and then for the last 3 weeks in a row, it's been fantastic. And the Browns defense was the best defense in the league, and they still can be. But, obviously if the Lions go to play in Cleveland, that could be a much different looking game. But Cleveland goes to play in the Lions dome, and they handled it, which was, and Jared Goff didn't have, too many plays where he looked horrible. And that's what we wanted to see. And especially coming after the massive win against the Ravens last week, which again, that's, a massive, massive win going on the road at the Ravens. And then they come out and do this week. Like all is well in Detroit. And we've all been able to calm down after the first week jitters, whatever happened there. And then I think the big, we'll talk about the Bears, but maybe the Bears offense and the Lions offense could be good at the same time, which is the biggest question mark we had coming into the season. So, go Lions.
Yeah, I mean, Lions defense playing really well. They played a lot of sacks versus the Ravens last week, which was a big part of that victory. And the offensive line, gaining some continuity after losing some parts and pieces there, and your OC. So Gibbs got going in this one, averaged 6.1 a carry. Judkins, had a lot of carries and looked pretty good in this one. If you look at the per carry basis, it's only 3.9, but Judkins isn't going anywhere anytime soon. He's their bell cow. He's their guy. Good to see him in there. Good to see Isaiah Bond kind of making his appearance there. Cedric Tillman exited this one. So, I'd like to see Jerry Jeudy get going a little bit more. I'd like to see a little bit more David Njoku in our faces, in our lives. There's parts and pieces here. I don't know that Joe Flacco is quite the answer. We'll see kind of where that goes.
Good call. He was never the answer. It was just how right could he keep the ship. And one of our commenters just now, best ball on call, said the punt return touchdown was a big swing. No doubt about it. It really was. It was a massive swing, and you get that building going, and you get the momentum going, and then that's exactly to Casey's point. Now Joe Flacco has to come out there and answer something like that, a statue. And of course he does have Quinshon Judkins to lean on now, but that's not, that Joe Flacco is not, nobody thought he was going to be the long-term answer. He wasn't going to be awesome for the next 3 years. It was just, can we get out there and play professional football? And of course he did that last week against the Packers. It's just each and every week, what can you bring to the table,
Right. So let's head over to another NFC North team playing an NFC East team. Last night we saw Packers Cowboys. The outcome is a 40-40 tie. Looked like it was going to be really ugly to start. That first half was abysmal up until right at the end, and then you have a score, and then a strip sack, fumble, score, and right before the half, all of a sudden the Cowboys are going into halftime leading, which was odd to say the least, from how that game played out. And then the second half was just a barrage of no defense, where the Packers had played pretty solid defense all year. Micah Parsons to the obviously this was a big game in that realm of trade, but I thought the Packers, or rather Dak Prescott and the Cowboys came out here sans CeeDee Lamb and got the job done. I don't know, that just like that punt return that you guys were just talking about in the last game, those two scores before half just really seemed to swing this back in a direction that this seemed like it was feasible, because it really felt like it was going to go off the rails and be just a drudging of the Cowboys at home against the Packers here.
Of course. And I think that, the commentators on TV did a good job of highlighting the blocked extra point return for 2 points, and how much it just a little spark like that is all you need in the NFL to get going. And then of course it was, one of my, our buddy Stankers we've been talking about for 10 years on the show is he texted me this morning, Sunday morning before the game starts, how did the Cowboys stopped the Packers as far as like a 7-point spread, because the Packers were 7 points favorites going on the road at Dallas. And I'm like, well, the Packers don't stop. The Cowboys defense is not stopping the Packers, but Dak's a legit quarterback, and to give a team 7 points at home with that good of a quarterback is dicey. And that's what Dak came out and showed. He's a legit quarterback. And we talk about this all the time, Casey. We've been talking about this for years. There's 32 starting quarterbacks. There's 25 good ones. There's 15 really good ones. There's 10 awesome ones. There's 5 great ones, and there's 3 elite ones, right? So Dak is really, really good, and at times he plays great, especially the Packers have ended the Cowboys season multiple times, and and as far as playoffs in the last 3, 5, 6 years, and that was a statement game for the Cowboys offense. And as far as like a tie at end overtime, that is just a wild, if it was 13-13, okay, but like a 40-40 tie is wild to me, right? It just there's just nothingness. Like the timer, the field goal went in and the timer was out, and even who is it? Was it Tirico on the call last night?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, okay, and that's it. And we're done. Right. Yeah. And then both teams, neither one of the teams were cheering, and neither one of the teams nobody was throwing a helmet. And it was like, after all that, I didn't, I want to see some chagrin on Jerry Jones's face. I do. I want to see the cameras zoom in and Jerry I don't necessarily need him throwing drinks, like former Panthers owners, right? I don't need him to do crazy stuff like that, but I want to see him upset the way he's handled the situation, right? Owner. You still got the same guy. Okay, my bad. All right. Should have kicked him out a long time ago. Anyway, I digress. Right. But I was pulling for Dak. I was pulling against Jerry Jones, and I was pulling for Dak. The Packers are so much fun, and they're easy to pull for. And when they're out there on that field, that green and gold looks awesome. Man, I was pulling for Dak last night. And it's nice that he didn't lose, but I would have been, I really wanted him to get that W.
Yeah, Dak takes a lot of criticism. I think any Cowboys quarterback pretty much always does. So I always like to see Dak go out there and perform really well and get amped and get excited. Just because it's I don't think it's always fair of the criticisms that he receives. He's been injured. The Cowboys are the Cowboys, and that comes with the territory. But it was good to see him kind of put the team on his back, carry them boys around last night. And I love seeing him excited on the sidelines. He was fired up pretty much the entire game. And it was, you got some George Pickens love. We talked about Pickens last week, and the big point in that game was kind of them moving Pickens around, which is what they do with CeeDee Lamb quite a bit. And that was really, they talked about it in the game. Hey, they've got him outside because it's easier to get acclimated to the offense of not moving around. But in order to survive this time without CD, you have to be able to move those guys around. So, hopefully this is a sign of offensive things to come for them. And while they're kind of going down this path, Pickens is getting used to playing different parts of the offense and different roles in the offense. And now you bring CD back, and now you have interchangeable pieces to do a bunch of different things. And then you saw the big thing that Pickens brings to you is that jump ball, contested catch kind of situation a few times last night rather. So a lot of positives there for the Cowboys offense. Defensively, I don't know who they're stopping. It's a good fantasy matchup, week in, week out. It seems to be like, running the ball wise, they seem to have, half decent. I mean, Jacobs had some good runs last night, but the front seems to be a little more stubborn than anticipated, I think.
Right. Yeah, exactly. How many times do we see, it's the first quarter of the season. We hear that all, it's a long season and teams make adjustments. Would it surprise you if in 3 or 4 weeks the Cowboys were almost average at defense, right? That's kind of how these things go, right? Everybody's there. You're not just going to go out there and get embarrassed every week. So and there's a couple, and they picked picked a guy on the defense last night. One of those linebackers talk about how he was been very active and they need to play him more often. I forget his name, like that kind of stuff. It's like, all right, well, they're taking their lumps, trying to work some things out. But the last thing I'll say about the Dak part, usually, yeah, he gets a lot of hate because it's the Cowboys and everybody likes to talk about the Cowboys, like them, hate them. People like to talk about them. What a lot of Cowboys fans that I see just walking around, because I try to talk NFL with anybody. If I see you walk to wearing a Cowboys jersey, I'm going to start talking to you. If I see you wearing anybody's football jersey in a grocery store, I'm going to check you out. And everybody hates Dak, right? A couple games ago, they put Dak's season totals up on the screen. Come on, man. If you can hate Dak, and yes, well, their biggest, and a lot of, like, there's this one guy that I talk to sometimes. He works beside where my shop is, and like he hates Dak, and he's like, but he has to go back to them losing in the playoffs. You can't hate on Dak's regular season numbers or performances, and it's just like, well, how many teams would take Dak right now, right? So like you can wish you might wish you had Jackson Dart, but like Dak's a beast. Right. And he's been surrounded by what? And I mean, CeeDee Lamb and what? Like CeeDee Lamb and what for the last couple of years, right? They tried. They brought in Brandon Cooks a couple of years ago. It's like they've been picking it, doing this and doing that and grabbing pieces. And it's like, well, when slow Jake Ferguson is your security blanket and CeeDee Lamb is all you got, and Dak's been hurt a couple times, sure. But when he's healthy, he's a stud, man. He's an absolute stud. And it's nice to see him get the Sunday night game where it's all the hype. And of course, with the Micah, Parsons trade, everybody was watching the game, but like, it's good to see him on the island game crushing again. So just to remind some people, like, yeah, when his hamstring's not falling apart, he's really good. I mean, literally, he was an MVP candidate and his foot went crooked 3 years ago on the field. Like, right. I mean, that's what happened, So like it's just, he's not 28 anymore. He's not 26 anymore. He's not running around being a threat with his feet. So like you take that guy and you make him almost a statue and he's still picking apart defenses. That is so hard to do in this league now where everybody wants a quarterback who's mobile, or you get Stafford or Dak, right? You get old guys that are really, really, really good. And Dak needs more love. Too much hate.
Yeah, I mean, you saw, a little bit. We saw a rushing touchdown last night. I think he needs to get back to at least running around a little bit and getting on that Aaron Rodgers level of scrambling around a little bit. You don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to be Josh Allen, but just moving in the pocket, moving around, picking up first downs, just making him think a little bit more. Just adds one more piece back to Dak's repertoire there.
Great point. He's still twice as fast as Aaron Rodgers at this point. Like he's not, when I just called him a statue, like he's decided to be a statue because he doesn't want to run around. He's got a bad hammy and he broke his foot a couple years, like he's obviously decided I can play from the pocket. I will play for the pocket, but you're right. If he moved around just a little bit more, it makes everything easier because it stresses the defense that much more. Good call.
Yeah. I'm super on the Packers side of things real quick before we go on to the next game. Romeo Doubs, had the hat trick last night. Be super interested to see kind of what happens to him at the end of this season. I think he'd be a fantastic number 2 for another team. I can't imagine the Packers bring him back. Maybe they will. He's probably going to want some money, but like he's somebody who I could see going somewhere. And he had a big role this game, but like he'll get lost in the sauce from time to time just because of the distribution of kind of how it goes for them. But I think Romeo Doubs is a very, very solid number 2 if he could go out there and just get his 8 targets every single game and be that for a different team. So he's definitely somebody that I'm interested. And the Packers are going to be just fine kind of moving forward here. I don't think they anticipated this, but again, it's the NFL. I guess a tie is better than a loss at this point. But, Detroit's looking good. Bears got a win yesterday. So, I mean, the division, still pretty damn solid. So we'll see how that tie kind of impacts the Packers at the end of the year. But I trust this offense, and I think this was an outlier for the defense. I think the defense is better than what we just saw there. So, all right, let's move on to the showcasing of Jackson Dart's first game. We just got some breaking news here. MRI confirming that Giants Malik Neighbors has an ACL tear. It didn't look good. If you watched it, he kind of went up in the air and that leg just kind of went limp and sideways whilst in the air there. But the Giants at the end of the day do get a win. This is demoralizing for them because that defense came out and played extremely well yesterday. You had the Jackson Dart juice in this one. You switched over quarterbacks. He's out there running around, looking pretty solid in that aspect. Obviously, there's plenty of things to clean up for Jackson Dart, but just that running ability to put everybody on notice was tough. And the Chargers just came off of 3 division games and we're riding really high. They come over, they play the dreaded 1:00 West Coast to East Coast kind of situation. Herbert not as sharp. The Chargers in general not quite as sharp. But credit to the Giants defense and credit to Jackson Dart kind of running around out there to move a lot of drives around, score some touchdowns, just add another level to this offense. Now, how long does this juice last? I'm not sure. I can't say it's going to last all season and all of a sudden the Giants are some tough out every single week. As soon as you kind of figure out that, hey, now there's no neighbors, that's kind of deflating for what they have to do. You don't have that one player that you really have to worry about and circle. Now it's like, now we can kind of circle Jackson Dart and kind of figure this out. So
that's a great point. You get that injury mid-game, you can't go back and change all the practicing that you did all week long, right? You could probably draw something up in the dirt and say, okay, well, the neighbors is no longer there, so don't shy that way, shy this way, that kind of thing, But yes, now there is no game planning for neighbors. Now there's game planning on just the athletic ability of Jackson Dart, right? And that first drive was everything the Giants could have ever asked for. And then I think after that, the Chargers defense is obviously one of the best in the league. And, the wife's trying to pick her eliminator pick this week, and she's talking about the Chargers. And I was like, listen, this, again, NFL Chargers are 3-0, fat and happy, going to play the Giants, who are lifeless, right? So so the Giants plug in their new quarterback. He's going to run around a little bit. And of course, Chargers lost. Chargers could have won the game. But it's just like, you got the Giants defensive line who, of course, don't know what to do at all with playing with a lead. So that's newfound territory for them. So they did enough. Those big, huge, fast men chasing Justin Herbert did enough to handle that. Of course, I would imagine that most people after the neighbor's injury was like, all right, well, that was a really cool little start to the game we just had. And then that happened. And here come the Chargers. They're going to take it back. And I was very shocked that the Giants played professional football to finish that game. And it's like, I didn't think they were going to pack it up and head into the locker room or anything, but that's a demoralizing blow. And then you're winning against a team you're obviously not supposed to beat, So how many times do we see that, Casey? You get up early, not necessarily the injury part, but how many times do we see the bad teams hang around for the Saints, the Bills? How many times do we see the bad teams hang around for a little bit, but over 4 quarters of football, you can't actually execute enough to win the game? And the Giants did. And actually, the Chargers defense on the goal line was ridiculous multiple times, So the Giants woulda, coulda, right? But coulda had at least another touchdown or two. They did kick the field goal on both times, so it's not like they lost. They kicked the field goal the first time around early in the game, but at the end of the game, they didn't convert on the 4th down, and the Chargers took the ball over on the goal line. But that 3rd down, 3rd and goal at the end of the game, they're up 5 minutes left. They're trying to punch it in and, not necessarily go on easy street, but be way more comfortably in the lead. Scottibo's got the ball headed into the goal, into the paint at the half-yard line with a head of steam, and some linebacker out of nowhere fills that gap and stonewalls him. And I would have bet money if you could have froze time and said, nobody's coming in here and stopping Scottibo in his tracks. And he did. So the Chargers kept it. They did. 9 times out of 10, you go back and replay that, the Giants probably figure out a way to lose that game. So that was between the quarterback play, take away the wide receiver injury, but the quarterback play and getting the W was wild. That's so good for the Giants.
Yeah.
So good for the Giants.
I was, and we'll see kind of how the Scottibo thing plays out. I was wondering kind of as things went when teams started getting some film and going, okay, hey, we got to buckle the chin strap and tackle Scatabo and get multiple guys on him to bring him down. If things might get a little, because I feel like he first comes in and those first couple of games, you're like, yeah, whatever. And now all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is what he does. This is how we have to now approach him. I wonder if that does start to slow down the Scatabo train just a little bit here. And obviously the Giants have to be good on offense. But one thing you kind of come up here, you look at Jaxson Dart. Obviously it's his first game, but this felt very on the NFC East side of things. This felt like a very Eagles-like game right now. Like Jaxson Dart, 13 for 20, 111 yards.
Yeah.
That's an
Chargers
Eagles
defense.
that's an Eagles line right there. And we'll talk about the Eagles in a minute. But then you come down here and you see Jaxson Dart 10 for 54 and a rushing touchdown, right? That's an Eagles. Like they got a good front four. They got the defense is playing half decent. I'm not the Giants defense is not the Eagles defense, of course, by any means, but like this just feels like, hey, we got a running quarterback who can run around. He can make some throws. Obviously we just lost our guy, but I don't know how long Tracy will be out, but a two-headed monster in Tracy Scatabo, and then you add Dart in. Now we can kind of go into more of a rushing attack kind of football team if our defense can keep us in kind of neutral or plus situations.
Right.
I wonder if the Giants maybe lean on that a little bit more. It was nice to see, Theo Johnson get the little shovel TD. That was nice. There was a theme yesterday, a couple of good shovels going on, but there's really no other wide receivers on this team that jump out to you being like, oh my God, this guy scares you. So I feel like, but I don't know how long Tracy's going to be out for, but between the rushing and receiving ability of those two running backs, I feel like leaning on those two guys a little more and this defense, maybe the success of keeping Jaxson Dart's confidence high and the game script a little closer if possible.
Well, it's a great comparison. Then you just look at it like Scatabo got 25 carries for 79 yards. He had a long of 16. So, just take that one long run away and he's got 24 carries for 63 yards, right? So it's like it was 2 yards in a cloud of dust. Chargers defense stood up to the task, right? So it's like the Chargers offense didn't get him going because the Giants defense, like I said, they haven't played with a lead in 3 years. It just, so like they got the opening drive. They had the 7 and they were off and running, and the Chargers, again, you just felt like they were going to find a way to win the game, but the Giants defense held their serve and did. And again, Justin Herbert's MVP before the game started, right?
Probably
and I'm not saying,
probably still the MVP,
right? So and he made an MVP throw at the end of the game. We all knew he had a 40-yard laser in him when they got the ball back with like 20 seconds left, and he's got time to make one big throw and run down there and spike it. Does that mean they're going to be able to kick a 68, 70-yard field goal to win? No. Or tie it? No, it doesn't mean they're going to be able to kick it, but it means that we all knew that Herbert had some nasty, well-placed laser in him, and he made the throw, and Quentin Johnson alligator armed it in the middle of the field. Like Quentin Johnson is even better, has been better this year than you even you gave him credit in the first 3 minutes of the show. He's even been better than your credit you gave him. But in that moment, he goes up at the 50-yard line on a laser from Justin Herbert. And then maybe he catches that ball, falls down, they run up, spike it. Maybe there's a 68-yard field goal made, and now we're in overtime, you know? And so it's just it's so much that this is why we love the game that we love, because it was there and it's never over until you're up 13 with 5 seconds left, right? So like that was awesome. It was an awesome throw by Herbert. I was looking for it. I knew he could do it, and he did it. And the receiver dropped the ball.
Yeah, Omarion Hampton has probably the biggest breakout game he's had yet. 12 carries for 128 yards, 10.7 a carry and a touchdown. And then this is really the biggest thing. If 5 targets again, so that's absolutely huge for him. We're seeing the emergence of Quentin Johnston be a big problem and a big part of this offense. Yeah, at the end of the game, didn't go like you wanted it to. But right now the fantasy guys are out there scratching their head about Lad McConkey and kind of what to do and what's going on. And it's just, there's a lot of competition out there right now. Lad had a drop or 2 in this one, but still had 6 targets. It'll be fine. It'll get going. But, we talked about it last week, the Keenan Allen ad, and then the emergence of Quentin Johnston. And now you're giving your RB, 5 targets a game here in Omarion Hampton. So, and Trey Harris is out there. I mean, he got a target yesterday, hasn't been a huge part of what they're doing, but I think you just got to know that you got a good situation and a good player in Ladd long term. But they're, a little bit of a bumpy ride here to start with Ladd.
Oh, for sure. I mean, very bumpy. And we'll talk about that tonight on the Dynasty show. Ladd McConkey just entered the fantastic buy low category in Dynasty fantasy football. Right.
Yeah, for sure. So Chargers take an L here at like I said, the dreaded 1:00 West Coast to East Coast kind of game there. So bit of a bummer there because I've been riding high on the Chargers. One loss isn't going to affect me of saying, hey, you're not one of the best teams in the league and Herbert's not playing some of the best quarterback. It's the NFL, things happen. But moving on to the next game here, I've kind of we're going Chiefs, Ravens, the battle of the surprising 1-2s. Kansas City proves worthy and gets the W here, 37-20. It was basically, this was all Chiefs most of the game here. Lamar exits with the hamstring, so that's definitely something to monitor. The play calling with as much Derek, I feel like there's got to be way more Derrick Henry involved in some games here for them. I don't really understand what's going on there. A lot of banged up players for the Ravens. I feel like they said maybe 7 defensive players exited for Baltimore in this one.
The list was wild.
At the end of the day, the Chiefs are one of the best teams in football, and I didn't really care that their record was 1 and whatever it was and how many they played a tough schedule. They came in here, they lost a couple of games, 1-score games, and then they get one piece back. Now the Ravens haven't been excellent, but you have a feeling that the Ravens are going to figure it out. I don't think this is the end of the Ravens, but the defense right now has always been a strong point, and it's not been great. They haven't figured it out necessarily. Again, missing some pieces, but as this thing keeps rolling downhill with Kansas City, he got one piece back and Worthy, he makes it through the game. That's huge. In another week or two, you're going to get Rashee Rice back, man. And
3 weeks.
We're on next week will be 5. And then,
6. So, okay. Yeah. So the third week. Yeah. You missed 2 more games without him.
So, sorry guys, not that I'm a huge Chiefs fan and I don't like to see a team just dominate the league for years on end, but they're coming right back, man. They got the best quarterback. He's extremely hard to beat, and he hasn't had his best weapon the entire time. They figured out ways to be in games and keep them close, and now they come out here with Worthy back and dominate the Ravens. So, I in the power rankings this week, the Chiefs are going to be back near the top. I don't care what the record says.
I kept him at 2 the whole time. We talked about it before the game this week. We were talking, and you said, who needs this win the most? And I was kind of thinking it through. And before I even said anything, you were like, the Ravens need it the most because they don't have the injuries to point to. Right. And I thought that was really, really good. Like the Ravens, because of course, and we joked about it. Well, if they don't tie, somebody's going to be 1-3, which is, Ravens and Chiefs through 4 weeks. One of those teams was about to be 1-3, which is kind of mind boggling. But you would just say, hey, if it's the Chiefs, they can point to a lot of the injuries and the different problems and stuff. And you're coming, let's not forget, these guys are coming. Last year, they were going for the 3-peat, So, like, if Patrick Mahomes wasn't dragging this team up and down the field, just getting some first downs, they just had the most pressure-packed season of all since, 20, 30 years? And never, because of the social media and the NFL's popularity and the TV shows and the documentaries on Netflix, maybe no NFL team in the history has had more pressure-packed season than the Chiefs last year of what the NFL wanted to happen, the history, the kingdom, that just, they were pushing it. So you got a little bit of a layover there for sure. But I saw somebody take a shot at Lamar Jackson saying that he's laying out the game. Let's not do that. Right? I've seen Lamar Jackson stay in the game when they were up way too far and when they were down way too far. And you're like, what do you want him to do? Stay out there and hurt his hamstring to the point where he's on IR and miss 4 or 5 games? That Jackson Dart yesterday in that game against the Chargers was grabbing his hammy. And I'm like, dude, what do we need to take him out? Is he going to stay in? You're going to let him stay in there until he hurts himself? It's like, I don't have a if Lamar Jackson's hurt, if he says he's hurt, he's hurt. I don't think NFL teams do a good enough job of taking out their really, really special players when they're down 30 with 10 minutes left, But like this game was still, there was a 2-score game into the third quarter and he was out. He's not out there because he's not hurt, right? Like whatever I'm trying to say, you know what I mean? If he's not out there, if he's not out there, he's hurt, right? Yeah. So that's
and look, he might not have come back in the game. Potentially he left the game and he was like, I could probably go back. Maybe he stayed out because it was, they were kind of getting beat up a little bit. So, that could essentially be part of it. Lamar's now 1-5 against the Chiefs. I feel like everybody kind of has that, Brady did this to a lot of people. It's just kind of unfortunate when you get your chance to be good and be great. Josh Allen and Lamar have maybe the best ever in their way, if not for Tom, outside of Tom Brady.
Exactly. A lot of people are 1-5 against the Chiefs, Casey.
Right. And so,
right. It's Patrick Mahomes. He's never not made it to an AFC championship game.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's a tough deal, but I think there has to be some level of concern now with Baltimore. I mean, I don't know if Lamar will miss any time or not, but you got to figure something out on defense. That division is not nearly as tough with Burrow out. And, hey, the Steelers got a win yesterday. So, don't let the Steelers get some confidence and get rolling and starting to figure things out. They can be a tough out for any team.
Yeah, good point.
I don't know exactly where I fall on Baltimore right now, but I came in without a whole lot of panic on either team. I don't necessarily say I'm sounding the alarm for Baltimore, but they got to figure something out on defense. I mean, but they also need to lean on the run game a little more. Like I know they've kind of, grown up as an offense and we all wanted to see it and we all know how great Lamar is, but like, obviously this, again, game got away from him a little bit, but I just felt like even early, I wasn't seeing enough Derrick Henry. Like let him lean on him a little bit. Like let that big fella get rolling a little bit. You got that guy. I mean, how many attempts did he have here? Let's see.
Well, just the first couple first couple times they handed it to him. He's got we know how bad of a week he had with the fumbles in the last couple of weeks of fumbles. Like he literally came out there with a chip. That first handoff he got went for like 9 yards because he was shot out of a cannon. Like the even announcers like he couldn't wait to get back on the field. You love to see somebody, you never see a running back take the blame. It wasn't even, he said he let the team down and he cost them the loss. And it wasn't like he fumbled it in the last second going over the goal line to actually win the game. He just was really stepping up and being very mature about it. Like, this dude is a Hall of Fame running back and he's still got a ton of left in the tank. And like you said, yeah, dude, just make it easy on everybody and give it to him. But again, playing against the Chiefs defense, how many times do we talk about you got to have it games and, backs against the wall and, like this, who wants to play against the Chiefs and a healthy Patrick Mahomes when if he loses, he's going to be 1-3 and his statistical odds drop down.
Excellent yesterday.
Right. That was the best game we've seen him play in a long time. That's like if the Chiefs if whoever loses that game is 1-3 and like their odds drop to make the playoffs down from like 20% to 13% or whatever, this you had to, and at the Chiefs, you had to believe that it wasn't going to be anywhere near easy. And the Chiefs went in there and handled business.
Yeah, Mog said keeping Henry off the field in short yardage situations was a major problem. Poor coaching. It's just, the Henry usage is weird. Yeah, he's fumbled a few times, but it's like, I mean, he's not, Caleb Johnson's getting, the beaten dog treatment. Keep him off the field. This is Derrick Henry. Put him on the damn field. Give him the ball. What are we doing? That can't be what it is. But like, I don't know. I needed to see more Derrick Henry in this one. But I also, Chiefs running game, not quite up to snuff just yet. I feel like we need to see a little more Pacheco. They gave it to Kareem Hunt 13 times yesterday, which is fine. But I feel like I've been seeing Pacheco kind of getting back to that hair on fire kind of style a little bit. I'd like to see him used. We got Brashard Smith in the mix a little bit yesterday, so that was good to see. I believe Brashard had 4 targets there, so that's really where Brashard Smith can make an impact this year in the pass game. But give him a couple in the gut as well. So again, we're working closer and closer to unfortunately the Chiefs getting back to the Chiefs we all know and love. And, the Ravens, might have a little bit of a problem here. No Isaiah Likely on the stat sheet on this one. This was potentially his first game back. But hopefully Lamar's all right, because I want to see the best guys playing football when it really matters here. So real quick here, let's jump into the Profit X. Got to pay the bills here. What is good? The phrase "the house always wins" will not anymore with our new sponsor, Profit X. Profit X, America's #1 sports prediction market, is a peer-to-peer prediction market where users play against each other instead of the sports book versus the house. You almost always get the best price on any spread, money line, or total, and the player prop, since you're playing against people rather than the book. Looks just like a sports book, but with way better odds. So what are you waiting for? Go download the app and get to work. Use promo code FFD to claim up to $200 in profit cash on all plays for the first 30 days playing on site. Terms and conditions apply. Go hit that promo code FFD. We got some fun games tonight here. We got the Jets versus the Dolphins. Jets are coming in +2. Any lean there, Big Co?
I take the Jets. I like Glenn so much. I thought that dance on the sidelines last week when they took the lead at the end of the game against the Bucs, and then of course Baker Mayfield did Baker Mayfield things, and the Jets still lost. But I like what Glenn has the Jets doing right now, and I hope that everybody in there is as bought in the locker room as it looks like. Let's just keep it moving and give that man time to work, because I'm sold on their coach. I'm sold on the Jets coach, and I'm completely not sold on what's going on with the Dolphins, so I'll take the Jets.
Yeah, I like. I want to see that. We saw some fight in the Dolphins last week. I don't know if that was all the fight they had, but maybe they make a nice statement this week. But this Breece Hall over 56.5 yards rushing. I think Breece comes out and has a big game for the Jets today, and they kind of lean on him. The Justin Fields rushing is at 47.5. Ollie Gordon rushing's kind of interesting, 25.5. I feel like he should be getting some more run for them boys right now.
Agreed.
So some interesting stuff over there, but I'll lean with you. I like the I think the Jets can get this one. So all right, let's jump over to anything else on the Ravens game before we move over to the Eagles?
The last, Moggs in the chat right here, he said 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and 3rd and 1. Ravens lined up in shotgun and passed it, and Henry was not on the field. To your point, Casey.
Yeah. It's just dumb. Like, what are we doing right now? Give this man the ball. There's no reason that he shouldn't have 15 attempts at least every game.
Remember the first 2 games last year? It was like they had to figure out how to. Yeah. Yes, exactly. That was last year. I feel like we started back over. He went on to have 2,000 yards and 78 touchdowns. Like, you've already had a full season and then another off season to learn how to use your weapon with Lamar Jackson. And after week 1, week 2, we're talking about how this is the most prolific backfield in the history of the NFL, because you have these 2 players and then some fluky fumbles. Of course, like that was. Yeah. I saw somebody like the flukiness in these fumbles. The Aiden Hutchinson punch out was a wildly awesome play.
Yeah.
So like that, it literally some guy coming from behind him. He didn't even see him. Superman punched him from behind right on the ball in the perfect spot. It just happened to be like the 2nd or 3rd fumble in 2 weeks. And now we all talk about it. Just give Derrick Henry the ball and get out of the way.
Yeah. You got the Texans coming up next for the Ravens here. So even if Lamar has to miss, maybe it's a decent thing, because you could put Cook back in there and you just lean on Henry and just get back to some basic shit here, and try to get back to, hey, let's be the Baltimore Ravens a little bit. I love seeing Lamar do what Lamar does, and I'm glad they've expanded this offense. I'm glad they've taken the training wheels off. I'm glad the growth we've seen from Lamar Jackson. But sometimes, you gotta be the Buffalo Bills and just, hey, let them run around a little bit. Couple of passes, some other people, lean on James Cook, lean on this guy. Let's get the run game going. Man, oh man, do we owe James Cook an apology for this year. He's been awesome. And so much for touchdown regression. Anyway, all right. Let's jump over to Philly, undefeated yet. They can stand the heat down in Tampa, 31-25. Big first half lead for Philly. And then don't have a single passing yard in the second half. This has just got
what an incredible stat.
The Chiefs vibe from last year, where they keep finding a way to get it done. And that's really all that matters at the end of the day. Hurts is a winner, and the defense has Fangio in the booth, which is great. But man, the way this offense is run and the play calling is questionable at best right now, man. And I feel like you have all these weapons, and it's just like I Barkley in the run game isn't where it was previous to last year, and it's just like you got to come out and open this thing up a little bit to start these games. Obviously, last week you came in and you had a different kind of situation where you kind of had to come back in the second half. This week, abysmal in the second half, absolutely terrible. And I don't know about the play calling. I don't know what's going on. And at some point, AJ Brown's got to be starting to get upset that, hey, look, if we just throw it to me, I can make some things happen here. Like, I think the Eagles are good. I think they're one of the best teams in the league, but the play calling when we get into bigger situations and bigger games, and obviously I don't want to say tougher opponents, because Tampa's a tough opponent. The Chiefs are tough opponents. They found ways to win those games, but we marginalized the Chiefs a lot last year. And I don't care how you win. It's the NFL. You got to get it done. You get how you get it done. But I never really worry about the play calling with the Chiefs. And we talk about this all the time, because the guy who calls and draws up a lot of the plays and is an offensive coach is Andy Reid. And you could say whatever you want about Nagy or whatever. But this play calling right now, with the disciple of Sirianni kind of being the guy who's the guy right now calling the plays, he ain't it. That ain't whatever's going on right there for their play. Like, they should be putting teams in body bags. The Chiefs last year had some reasons and rationale of why, hey, we got a lot of banged up guys. Same thing this year. You don't have anybody banged up on your offense here. AJ Brown's healthy. Devonta Smith's healthy. Goddard's healthy. Saquon's had a terrible tackle yesterday that was like, oh my God, I hope he's all right. You've had some banged up pieces on your offensive line, but I again, just week after week, kind of worry about Philly long-term play calling.
I can't agree. I disagree with pretty much anything you said, other than they're 4-0. Right. It just, and the Eagles started this game like the Bucs had their number, and the Eagles came into this game like they had something to prove, and they laid it on them. They slapped the Bucs for a while. They made them look bad. And then they had two huge plays in the second half with Bucky Irving and Egbuka, two massive 70-something yard touchdowns. And then, Baker had the ball at the end, and we could be having – then your rant would have been so much – I mean, everything you just said was absolutely on point, except for they won every single ball game. Right. And so the Rams had their number, and the Rams should, that was, the Rams and the Packers losing to the Browns last week are the two biggest games so far this year of should have won, but didn't win. And with the Eagles offense kicking it into gear last week against the Rams was awesome to see from an explode, like this is what they can be. And like you said, they should be putting teams in body bags, and they have the ability to do it. And it's almost like they're sleepwalking and saying, we just want to be healthy in the playoffs, because all we care about is winning another Super Bowl. And they want to win. They obviously won home field advantage in the NFC in the playoffs. And, Baker had a chance it's the first time literally Baker. The stat was they've won every game this year in the last minute. The Bucs come in 3-0 with Baker Mayfield completely ice cold veins, but the Eagles came out and got on top, and there was just too much, and they even still had a chance at the end, and it just they handled business. So like 4-0, I agree with everything you just said. Just we want to see it. We like if AJ Brown healthy, Devonta Smith healthy, Saquon healthy, and just the stat that they're 20-0, 19-1, 20-1 the last 21 ball game, right? They don't lose, and they just have literally taken the playbook that the Chiefs were using, which is just win the game and don't look for stats, and it's working, and it's frustrating to watch. But when you're 4-0, who are we to throw stones?
No, I don't. I've just I got a lot of questions for a 4-0 team, and again, the defense is outstanding, and they've made a lot to do about Fangio and finally having this best corner go move around and shadow the other team's best player, which is something that he typically didn't do. But That what can't be understated is the continuity of that defense play caller and the non-continuity of the offensive play caller has made a big difference, I think, this year in Philadelphia. So, I think they need to get back in gear of putting the pedal to metal to start games and then leaning on Saquon a little later in games.
I think what you just said right there was really big. Like I think it's either 7 years in a row or 7 out of 8 years that Jalen Hurts has had a different offensive coordinator.
Right.
It's absolutely mind blowing with the change and Jalen Hurts' consistency of having success. So it's maybe I said it all off season. I felt like because now Eagles got the ring, Hurts got the ring, got a trophy, the pressure's off, and they'll play more freely. And I completely agree with you, man. I just thought they'd be out body bagging teams, and they haven't. And maybe you take away a maybe can we call it fluky, lucky? Take away 170-yard play from the Bucs yesterday in the second half, and maybe if that play doesn't happen, then the Eagles win by 2 touchdowns. So
the Eagles don't block a punt, and maybe the Bucs win this game. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's just early on they got that punt block. It was just obviously my wife is a huge Eagles fan. We watch every Eagles game very intently. I'm from kind of that area, so all my friends are Eagles fans. And not my favorite franchise, not my favorite head coach. Had the visor on yesterday, which makes me hate him even more. But a lot of respect for what they're doing. I just want to see this offense go into the gear that it should be in. So slight concern there, but I mean, the Bucs are a lot of fun. It was good to see Godwin back out there yesterday. We got Baker Mayfield out there just doing Baker things. He's so much fun to watch. And at the end of that game, you get a tip ball interception, which changes the play to the end of that game potentially as well. So, Bucs still solid and Eagles still undefeated. So
exactly.
Fun, good game to in the 1 o'clock slate there. All right, let's keep it moving. 4 o'clock slate, we had Indy versus LA. Rams come away victorious in that one. I mean, A.D. Mitchell doing dumbass. I don't even know what happened on that play. Just going into the end zone. I don't know how he lost control of the ball or what was going on there. But that took some points off the board. I was waiting for the wheels to come off of the Danny Dimes experience, but I didn't view it as anything really coming apart over there. I think the Rams are a very, very good team. They were in the Rams building. I thought Daniel Jones played pretty well yesterday. 24-33, 262 yards, had the 2 picks, but should have had another touchdown. I didn't take a ton away from this game outside of both teams are pretty good. I was glad that this was a dogfight. I was glad that this was a battle back and forth, right? I was glad that it wasn't just like, oh yeah, the Colts aren't the Colts or the Rams aren't the Rams. So I think more so the Colts side of things, right? I think
for sure.
I think we know what the Rams are.
No doubt. There was outside of the Rams maybe coming out somehow, and especially at home, being after having the game put away last week against the Eagles and then losing with the 2 block kicks in a row with that was the big story last week was the Eagles blocking those kicks, returning them and beating the Rams. So outside of the massive letdown that was to come, and then the Rams showed up and showed that wasn't happening. Yes, you're right. It was all we wanted to do is that we want to pull for the Colts. We want to see the Colts be good. I think, just it seems like that's a general thought, and they did not look, dude. If A.D. Mitchell gets that, what a throw and catch and play that was. If A.D. Mitchell gets in the end zone, it's a different game, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those yards, Daniel Jones got credit for every one of those passing yards until the goal line, and he fumbles it through. It's like that stat is there, except for there's another touchdown, and that's a lead. At that point, the Colts would have had the lead, right? So who knows what happens if he doesn't celebrate too early? Just hold on to the ball and don't fumble it through the end zone. And I mean, it's still the worst rule in football. It should be at least the Colts should get the ball back at the 20 going in. It just whatever. But that's a different. The Colts could easily have won that game. They still could have won it, but like that's a massive, massive change when you go in with like it's not like they dinked and dunked got their way around to get in the, like that's an 80-yard touchdown that the sideline is going to explode over, and then it goes away and the other team gets the ball. Right? It's wild. Like that is such a devastating play. And I felt so bad. Like a lot of times when that happens, when something like that happens, we can get mad at the ball carrier and we can feel bad for him or not. Depends on, if you like him or not and that stuff. But like for Daniel Jones in that moment on the road against that pass rush, against that defensive line, and he had held his own. He had thrown some you threw a bad interception, got the ball knocked out, just getting beat up, but not looking like the Giants' Daniel Jones. Like you said, just looking, we want to see that he can go into that ball game and come out of that ball game, the Colts Daniel Jones and not the Giants Daniel Jones. And then that play happens, just like, you got to be kidding me.
Right. Yeah. It's a gutting play. And I don't even know what was going on. It looked like it almost slipped out of his A.D. Mitchell's hands a little bit. So that was a weird one.
He went to hold it up. Like he was running with it like a football player. And he just went to hold the ball up out in front of him to say, look what I got. Look what I did. And he just needed one more step before he lost it. It literally, like it wasn't like,
Tutu Atwell had a similar play and he held it all the way in there, and put a big one in for his score. It's just,
he did.
And I think Puka Nacua has maintained best receiver in the league status for me through one more week. My God, this guy's impossible to deal with. He's always questionable. He always comes back. Like you said, I don't know if he's long for a 34-year-old career like Devontae Adams is here, but while he's here, I don't think there's a better receiver in the league. I don't. I think there's other guys. Jefferson's great, and he's right up there with those guys, and those guys do it a little bit different way. But
yeah,
man, he is so damn good, and he is so hard to deal with, and he's giving you every single thing on every. He's got a little bit of Jefferson and Chase combined with him, and he's so nasty, man. I love watching.
He's on pace for 2,100 yards, dude. He's on pace for 2,100 yards. He's so much. If he should probably be everybody's favorite player in the league. That's that's where we are right now. If you don't watch Puka Nacua play football and he's not like if you're not a Rams fan and you're a Jets fan or whatever, like if he's not your favorite player, he should be your second favorite player, right? Yeah, like he's amazing.
Unreal. So much fun to watch and so hard to deal with. And then on the Colts side of things, I mean, we just got to, at this point, I mean, Tyler Warren hasn't been insane with the amount of catches, volumes, touchdowns, or anything that he gets necessarily week over week, but he's been very consistent. He's absolutely awesome. He's number one or number two on their pecking order. And he's got to be the tight end 3 right now overall in football. I mean, I don't even know who else you could even put up there. Like,
his catch totals aren't Trey McBride catch totals, but for what the Colts needed out of him and what they're getting, he has been insanely good for them. He really has. He and of course it's a different quarterback that with Daniel Jones being in there. They didn't have Daniel Jones and they didn't have, so like it's not like he just showed up and he made Anthony Richardson good, or he all of a sudden, he didn't come in there and help, the ghost of Phillip Rivers and all the things that they've been trying to do the last couple of years to be good. But like he's been insanely good for them, and he's been everything they could have asked for, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, Tyler Warren has been absolutely elite in his rookie year production, and just what he looks like on the field and how they're using him. It doesn't look like it's going to go away. He's one of their favorite guys. Every week you could pretty much count on some production coming from Tyler Warren. So I mean, at this point, like Laporta's shaky to use if we're in the fantasy lens, right? And so I don't even know who else you could put that spotlight on to say, hey, firmly, this guy is the tight end 3, and I feel like it's got to be Warren.
Oh, for sure. Like, yeah, I mean, Warren just put Laporta in the back seat, right? And
yeah,
Tucker Kraft has too, right? I mean, and
sure.
It's not. You could look at it's not Laporta's fault, but you think about the different pass catchers. You look at the options and the way the Packers spread the ball around, and then they're like, you know what, Kraft is awesome. Like nothing on the Packers offense has anywhere come close to touching St. Brown and Gibbs. Right. So like, and then you still got the Jameson Williams, which is the most ridiculous player with the, if he decides he wants to play and catch the ball. Like he had a terrible game yesterday, but he had an amazing amount of air yards. Like he just like the wealth of riches that the Lions have on offense does not help Sam Laporta's fantasy stats. Let's say that. Right. But right now, even if you started over, I bet they would never say it out loud, but the Lions would. Tyler Warren is a stud. Like he's, it's Brock Bowers and McBride and Tyler Warren, and then Tucker.
Obviously, there's George Kittle. Potentially maybe the best tight end in the league currently, but he's not playing. We're not seeing him, and he's a little older, right?
Yeah.
So that is what it is. But I wanted to give Tyler Warren a little bit of love here early into his rookie season, and he looks absolutely exactly what was promised. So it's good to see Tyler Warren out there doing his damn thing. All right, let's go over close late game, another blocked field goal to end it. Bears survive another one. And if they played another quarter of football versus the Vikings, they could be 3-1. That's how crazy this is. That's how close these margins are. That's kind of what the NFL is, and like you said, why it's so fun. Caleb had a solid day yesterday, and then had a game-winning drive, quote unquote, and then obviously, the block field goal really helps him get over the hump here. Jeanty has the game that everybody's been waiting for, really emerges. They feed him, they throw him the ball a few times, and Jeanty delivers on what you've been waiting for. Obviously, the Bears defense is kind of like the Cowboys defense, where it could definitely be a potential get right area, but they're missing a lot of key players on a lot of key different levels. The Bears are, and I don't know when we're going to get them all back and when they'll be full strength. And they may not be all season, because one guy comes back, one guy goes out, and that's just kind of what this is. But the Bears, this is a game, and watching all the locker room stuff with them, that like, I don't know how it'll go next week. Or they got a bye week next week potentially. But this getting a win like this, and they had a lot of games where their heart got ripped out last year, and then they had the game where with the Vikings week 2, I believe that was, or whatever, that week 1, whatever that was,
week 1.
And those things hurt, and it just, at the end of this game, I saw Caleb Williams getting off the field and just letting out some screams and yells and getting amped, and it just felt like this was one that it was ugly. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't like last week where we threw 4 touchdowns and, oh my God, this is awesome, and everything was so great. This is a gritty win that it took all 60 minutes, and you had to have a blocked field goal at the end, and it just felt like this was Marvin Harrison catching the touchdown of, like, it felt like I can kind of release some shit right now and be like, all right, I feel pretty good. That was a gutsy, gritty win. My O-line wasn't protecting me. Max Crosby was all over me for portions of this game. We had some bad snaps. We had fumbles. We had all sorts of things go on. But at the end of the day, I drove us down there. We got a touchdown, and then we got a blocked field goal. This feels like it could help shift belief in the entire Chicago Bears locker room. And now maybe I'm putting too much stock on that, but you need games like this to help turn the tide of culture. And it feels like this is potentially one of those games where it helps. It just felt like there was a big exhale after this one. Like, I feel like Caleb's felt the pressure every turn of direction, because everyone's, once he can just kind of eliminate that and play a little more free, I feel like it's really the key to unlocking some things with him. And I felt like this was one of those wins that could potentially get you there.
Oh, that was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, we're at the end of the game, and before the Raiders charged down enough to kick a field goal and try to win the game. And I'm thinking I'm literally, like, the head coach is going to say in the locker room, like, man, that was ugly, but it was beautiful, or what, like, I'm literally thinking about the locker room speech that Ben Johnson's going to give based on everything you just said. Literally, like, the week 1 game against the Vikings, we thought the first half of that the Bears were going to go undefeated, right? And I mean, that's how good the offense looked in the first half against the Vikings, and somehow they lost that game, and it fell apart in the second half. And then you go on the road and you get slapped by the Lions. So this is a game that the Bears always lose. And I know it's against the Raiders. And I did say last week that this is, a sneaky defensive line for the momentum that we want to see the Bears have. We want to see the Bears get momentum. We just, as a football fan, like, I'm not a Bears fan. I want to see the Bears be good enough. I don't want to see them beat my Lions 90% of the time or anything like that. But I just want to see, just the NFL fan in me. And like, this was a game they always lose.
Yeah.
Even if it's just the Raiders, like the Raiders have a very, very capable quarterback who does make some stupid mistakes, but then also makes ridiculously good plays. You had to deal with the massive, the Jeanty big run. You had to deal with the swings of the game, and just being 2-2, like the exhale, 2-2 on the road. Huge win is way better than 1-3.
No, absolutely.
Right? And you're right. You did. And Alex pulled it up. It's a bye week next week. So like 2-2, a road win in the NFL into a bye week, or we could have won, but we're 1-3, and we, they kicked the ball, and as the time expired, the ball went through the uprights and we lost. Right. Like, they're just such a completely different 14 days ahead for the Bears before they get back on the field, instead of what would have happened if they lost. And if, as we continue to do this show, we've been talking, dude, that's any given Sunday. And it just can't come up enough. Like, that's why it's so hard to pick a win. That's how you would think picking games against the spread is like almost impossible, but like, you would think the Survivor contest would be easy. Just pick a team that's going to win. And you can't even do that every week. Right? It's like, that's the NFL. Okay. So you can't even pick the Packers to beat the Browns. Right. And so the Bears go on the road and handle business against a team that's probably better than their 1-3 record. Right. And that's just how the NFL works right now. There's only been 4 games, and the Ravens are 1-3. They're better than that. I think the Raiders are better than 1-3, even though their first couple weeks with Chip Kelly's offense was not as good as we wanted it to be. This is the first game they got Jeanty going. And then the Bears still get the W. Massive victory for the Bears.
Yeah, huge victory. Raiders are still kind of figuring things out. They're trying to switch their culture as well. It could have went either way. I thought it was obviously Geno turned it over 3 times. That's a big part of a loss. We're going to talk about the San Francisco loss here in a minute. But it was nice to see Jeanty get it going. And it's, really, obviously, if you've been messing with us for any extended amount of time, that I'm just been a huge Odunze supporter, and it's been nice to see him week over week just becoming their number one alpha guy, and a rapport being built with him and Caleb here down the line. So it's always good to, when you preach the patience and it starts to pay off, which we've seen over the last few years with multiple really, really good players. It's good to see Odunze really coming alive here and being just fantastic through the first quarter of the season here. So shout out to Odunze and Luther Burden. You got to take the same approach with him right now, because it's there. It's coming. It'll be there. He's going to be awesome. Just wait. Patience.
Yeah, and
patience.
Yes, the upside of this offense is, as a Lions guy, as a Jared Goff, the upside of the Bears offense with Ben Johnson is so much more. I just like, even these weapons they have still don't touch St. Brown and Gibbs, and it's just what Ben Johnson can do schematically, matched with Caleb. The first game last week against the Cowboys, the first play last week against the Cowboys, the Bears come out and there's a 25-yard dart, a missile thrown to Colston Loveland, and like the play calls, the designs, the way they can manufacture space, like it's Packers-esque, right? They did a really good job last night at the end of the game showing how the motion and the way LaFleur set that play up for Dub. How is Jordan Love throwing it to Romeo Doubs so easy in the end zone when they need a touchdown to take the lead? It's because really, really good X's and O's, and obviously you got to execute. And yes, you're playing against the Cowboys defense, but it was really, really good play. Like Ben Johnson, Cole Kmet's got 9 targets, and you're bringing along Luther Burden. Take nothing away from Cole Kmet because he's solid, but there's players in this offense, and it all gets unleashed through Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams we talked about it last week, his escapability. I mean, you talked about it a lot. Good, well said, Casey, about what his trying to be more comfortable in the pocket and getting that. Like they talked about him going under center and snapping the ball and turning his back to the defense. Like he did not do that in college. It's a work in progress. Does need to be patience, but like the upside on this offense, if we ever get like real clicking, if we ever, they have weapons. Rome is a stud.
Mm-hmm.
Rome is a stud. And I mean, if it wasn't for George Pickens, DJ Moore's body language would be more talked about as being horrible. I was the one talking up George Pickens last week, but like his body language on the field, I never see him really initiating a block in the run game. And he just, it's so frustrating to watch George Pickens play football because it's out there. And like DJ Moore, he catches this nasty, like, rocket that roamed through Caleb Williams threw him, and he just plucked it out of the air, and he just like, all right, yeah, I did that. It's like, not that I need my wide receivers to be a diva, but I wouldn't mind seeing my wide receivers look like they cared a little bit more. And just like there's so much going on for the Bears, and if it ever clicks right, it could be really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, so I just like that they got a gritty win where everything wasn't awesome, and it wasn't like, oh, we just dominated. Like, hey, it was back and forth. It was ugly, and we got one, and hey, we can do this way. So I want to talk about another game or two. I've really got to hit the bathroom. If you want to take us over to Dublin and give us a little Steelers Vikings while I take a 30-second break.
Yeah. If you would turn into a 60-year-old man on me, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, if we're going Pittsburgh Steelers and Vikings, right? Like that was the Steelers are 3-1 with Aaron Rodgers, and the Steelers have been good in previous years, and then like last year they were bad to start the season, and they were in a hole, and this was their first year ever under Tomlin. They weren't going to finish 500, and of course now with the extra game, it makes it tough to finish 8-8 because you can't, mathematically impossible. But what Casey was saying earlier about don't let the Steelers get some momentum, right? Like Aaron Rodgers, he hit that slant pass to DK Metcalf, and my man looked like he was having fun. Him and Tomlin going back and forth on the sidelines to the middle of the field. Like if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, he's not ever going to be fast again, folks. He's 40 something. He's never going to be running around on the field. He's never going to be your Aaron Rodgers that we grew up with. That player is gone. But if he can stay healthy and just keep this team on the right track every week, the Steelers now, they have upside. They don't have to be 8-8. They don't have to be, we could just make the playoffs. And Tomlin's the best coach. He's such a good coach. I missed week 2 because I was on my 22nd annual golf trip with my dad, and I'm sitting at a table full of guys talking football, and somebody's talking about how Harbaugh is the best coach in the league. And they were talking about the Ravens Harbaugh, and I was like, don't you mean the other Harbaugh in the Chargers? Because he's a monster. Like Tomlin is such a good coach. Yes, he doesn't get nobody's going to vote Tomlin the best coach in the league. But what he's been able to do for the Steelers has actually hurt them because they haven't had a good draft pick. He's been so good. The ghost of Ben Roethlisberger disappears, and he's been so good. He's drug his team to an 8-8 record at least every year, and they can't get a good draft pick. They can't even be up there to be close to and maybe they would have taken another Kenny Pickett. But like they had to take Kenny Pickett because they needed a quarterback so bad in a bad quarterback class where nobody was in the top 10 looking for Kenny Pickett. The Steelers had to take him into 20s, right? So like they haven't been able to get their hands on a franchise quarterback. And that's how good Tomlin has been, to be able to bring a team in the NFL in the 2020s and the 20 teens, been able to keep them at 500 or better with bad quarterbacks. And so that's just how good the Steelers have been. And now, Casey, we're talking about the Steelers with a quarterback who can play ball, and he's never going to be young Aaron Rodgers again, but he's still a stud. And as far as like he's not a stud football player anymore because he can barely move, but like he's just in between his ears, he's a stud football player, and he's got the talent around him, and the Steelers are going to do big things. And hilarious change of events. You're back, and I got to plug my computer in or it's going to die. My bad.
Yeah. In this one, they made just kind of like we were talking about with George Pickens. You had DK Metcalf, who had just been kind of put out there on the island a lot of the last previous games. And in this particular game, they did a good job of moving DK around in this one, and you saw him get loose. And while the targets may not be a crazy amount more or less than what we've seen over the last couple of games, they were more efficient. They did a good job of getting them going. They got him a couple of nice shots, threw him a deep ball or two. That, like, the big thing with them, they haven't been pushing the ball downfield a whole lot. Hopefully Calvin Austin's all right. But this receiving core is a little odd. The run game hasn't been great. Minnesota's actually been kind of susceptible to the run. But I came into this one thinking, like, Aaron Rodgers is the kind of quarterback that's going to give the Vikings defense a little bit of a problem, because a lot of these other guys, he's just been around for so long. He knows how to push and pull on every bit of kind of what the Vikings like to do, right? And so if they could just get a little bit of protection, you saw early that, hey, he got a couple of sacks and they were kind of getting after him a little bit. But Aaron Rodgers has an answer to a lot of the test questions that the Vikings were going to present to him. And I thought he did a really good job yesterday. I thought that the Steelers offense looked pretty good. And then while the Steelers defense isn't like that Steelers defense that you always think about, but what they've been doing is creating turnovers and been really opportunistic. And you saw that again, kind of bleed into this game, a lot of big turnovers, and then a pick to end this one. So, I don't exactly know where Pittsburgh stands on the hierarchy of the league right now, but I just know that if they continue to gain confidence and they continue down this path to eke out wins and get wins, I think they're going to become more and more dangerous, because the more confidence Aaron Rodgers has, the longer they have in this offense to kind of figure things out, what they like, where to put people, how to scheme. I thought Gainwell looked really good yesterday. They hadn't been able to run the ball very well. He averaged 5.2 a carry, had 19 carries for 99 yards. I know I've been a big Caleb Johnson guy. It's not happening. It's not working. I kind of don't love the approach that they've taken with it. He feels like a beaten dog at this point, where like he's gun shy, where I don't know that that's necessarily how I felt like Tomlin was as a coach. Like, he fucked up a couple of times. No idea why you have him back on kickoff to even start with. Like, Gainwell should be back fielding kicks. There has to be some other guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Gainwell's the type of guy that returns kickoffs. Like, that's the way he moves and the way he play. Like, there got to be some better players to put back there. So I didn't love that move to start with. And then on top of that, he makes a bad move. He has a couple of bad plays here and there. It feels like you really put him in the doghouse, and like you've kind of shit on him a little bit. In this one, you kind of got him a carrier or four and got things rolling a little bit. So that was good to see. But they really could use a guy like Caleb Johnson right now, who can get in there and pound it a little bit. They have two guys, and they want to use the short pass, quick pass game. The veterans lean into that a little better. Warren and Gainwell fit into kind of how they seemingly want to play right now. I'm sure Rodgers likes the veterans a little bit more than the Caleb Johnson of the world right now, who's a rookie. But I do think that you need, like, in this game, there was a point where the gap was kind of bigger. And they rode Caleb for a series or two, and it was like, man, let him give him 5-6 more carries, and let's see if we can establish something, because a guy like Gainwell can come in off the bench and do what he's gonna. That's just his style of play. A guy like Caleb, you're not going to be able to see what you got in him until you give him 10, 12, 15 carries. That he's just going to, like, he's the kind of guy that's going to get better as things kind of go on, right? And the more that you give him, and you threw one pass to him, he dropped it, and I'm like, God, he got smashed after he dropped it.
It was a not exactly a well schemed pass, the way the ball was on him so quick. But I don't disagree at all about what Caleb needs. The problem is, obviously, again, I said it last week, the Steelers are now 3-1, but the Steelers don't have the time to mess around and figure out. They don't have, Rodgers came in here to be their savior. The funny part is what you were saying about Rodgers and the Vikings defense is Vikings defense embarrassed him last year at the Jets. Like this, that was that was after that game. It was like Rodgers is toast. He doesn't use any motion before the play call, before the snap, and the Vikings were sitting there, and the Vikings had the answers to Aaron Rodgers' test last year. And I thought there was a really, really good replay in this game where there was motion, and they didn't necessarily say at that point in time, hey, look, this is Aaron Rodgers. They came in here and said, hey, let's put our heads together. They had said that at a different point. Like, Rodgers comes in, and it's not like, oh, this is Rodgers, this is my offense no matter what. Of course, Rodgers probably wants to do a couple things his way, but it was, let's put our heads together and mold this thing. And like the Jets had no motion last year, and the Vikings came in there, and that was the game that exploited it. And where the defensive lineman's dropping back, picking him off, and then that's when everybody took their week or two to pound on A-Rod and say, well, he's running the same plays for so long, everybody knows. And of course, the Vikings, and the Packers, same division. They, whatever continuity there is with that defensive, coaches and the Vikings there that could carry over some defensive playbooks from all the different planning they had to do against the Packer A-Rod, which never worked, by the way. They thought, Aaron Rodgers always beat him to death when he was in the Packers, but now he's 40 something years old and came in here to save the Steelers. But he definitely played a major part in just putting the ball where it needed to be. And of course, you can play that back a couple times and maybe the Steelers don't win every time, but they did. I mean, and DK was huge to start. And like Kenny Gainwell looked awesome.
Right.
So it was a big time win for the Steelers. And of course, in true NFL fashion, it was close at the end, but it definitely felt for most of the second half there that it was the Steelers game and they had it. And first half, Justin Jefferson's out there doing work and he's the old Justin Jefferson. And then I don't, whether it was defensive adjustments or however it played out, Justin Jefferson does nothing until like the last garbage time, quote unquote, drive of the game where he catches a couple balls. But Steelers are 3-1. I guarantee you, if you ask the Steelers before the season if they'd like to start 3-1, they would take it, right? And of course anybody would, but the way they've had to start their games, start their seasons, it's like they've just been battling, trying to catch. How many times have the Steelers been 1-2, 1-3? It's like, all right, well, this is it. Tomlin's lost him. He's finally over. And then, Tom, I think what you said there was great. Was you pair what you said with the Steelers being 3-1 now, and I'm not saying the pressure's off, but it's like it's obviously when you're 3-1, it feels like things are working now, Casey. And it's like now you give Mike Tomlin a 3-1 start. Now you give Aaron Rodgers a 3-1 start, and he's on a team that is the Steelers. He's not here. He is here to save the Steelers because everybody on defense is getting old and we're tired of seeing the Steelers with no offensive quarterback. But he's not here to save them like he was here to save the Jets, right? He was there to save the Jets because the Jets have taken numerous top 5 quarterbacks and messed them all up. And hadn't been good since the play before the butt fumble. They ain't been good since Rex Ryan was putting his feet on TV. So the Steelers are a different situation. And it's, of course, all offseason long, it was like, will the Rodgers and the Steelers get together? And here they are, and the Steelers are 3-1, and they're looks like they could potentially be a tough out, like you said. It's gonna be fun to see how their season, what kind of growth they can get on offense with their players that they have and don't have. It's not like they're just sitting there dripping with talent. They got DK and who else?
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, you go into the bye week here, week 5 for Pittsburgh with a 3-1 record. You come out and you play Cleveland and I think Cincinnati. I think you can get 2 more wins, right there. And all of a sudden you're looking at, 5-1 and you got the Bengals again, which, maybe you can get them. And I'm sure you'll figure out a way to win a game or 2 in between there with Packers, Colts, Chargers, right? I don't know who it's going to be. They got the Bears. So, I don't know. The Steelers, it hasn't looked pretty. It hasn't been awesome. Maybe they're figuring things out. Maybe they're just not that great, but I've kind of liked and enjoyed watching them play here. I've liked watching Aaron Rodgers kind of pilot this thing into, winning football games. I mean, that's really all that, we've talked a lot of shit about a lot of teams of their offense and they can't, but they win. And it's like, all right, well, same thing with the Steelers, man. They're figuring it out. They've got a couple W's here. On the flip side, Vikings wise, I mean, goddamn, how much do you wish you had Sam Darnold right now? I mean, I'm probably not going to get to the Cardinals Seahawks at the end of this because we're already running kind of long and I want to talk Niners and get out of here. But Sam Darnold has been excellent this year. I mean, whatever you want to say, you can take the stats to do anything. Watching Sam Darnold play football this year, the Vikings had Sam Darnold right now. They're probably undefeated.
Maybe. Yeah, for sure.
It's
an expectation.
Wentz goes out there and throws for 350 yesterday and was fine. I thought Carson Wentz was pretty good yesterday. And you got to figure out what you got in JJ McCarthy. So I'm not down on you for that, but I mean, man, oh man, is it tough to look your team in the face and go, yeah, we had that guy, but we let him go.
Yeah. We were 14-2. He went 40-something hundred yards passing and 35 touchdowns, and we let him go. Yeah, yes, exactly. But it's all expectations, right? We just talked about the Steelers, and they're 3-1, and it doesn't look pretty, but they're 3-1. And then, we have a deserved rant against the Eagles offense, and they're 4-0, right? It's all expectations. And of course, it's JJ McCarthy's supposedly hurt, and if that means if they're the only reason I said supposedly because he looked good at the end of the game when he had the high ankle sprain, but of course things tighten up after the game, and your juices are flowing and your adrenaline's pumping. So yes, look, JJ's hurt. Carson Wentz, I don't know how many times that an announcer could say he's big and fast and strong, right? Yeah. But he's Carson Wentz, and he makes the throw, he makes the bad throws, and he makes the bad interceptions. And and of course, it was cool for them to show it at the end of the game about what could have been and what he was supposed to be when he was at the Eagles. And we've talked about that 4 or 5 times in the last 10 years, right? He was, before he got hurt, he was the MVP of the league. He hadn't won it yet, but he was about to be the MVP, and he got his knee hurt. But the Eagles looked unstoppable. But like, it's not like he was a running back and he never got his speed back, right? I mean, Tom Brady tore his ACL too. Like, maybe Carson Wentz would have never been great. Maybe we've all seen guys have good seasons, and he had, but he was really good. And a lot of things, whether you had to look back, maybe a really diehard Eagles fan could tell us, but like between coaches and play callers and all the different things that will change no matter what, all the details between an NFL team from one year to the next, whatever happened, Carson Wentz was never the same. And interesting to see now the Vikings, good for them for having a capable backup behind a rookie, second-year player who's hurt. But like you said, the Vikings, if they still had Sam Darnold, would most likely have a little bit better record. Who knows? They could be 0-4 with Sam Darnold. It's just like
they certainly could. I just feel like you really caught lightning in a bottle. You got to live with it, and it is what it is. And I'm not saying who's to say if they made the right or wrong decision currently, but right now it doesn't look super great. It's hard.
That's a good way to put it. Like in 2 years, and JJ McCarthy's a stud. Nobody, this conversation was for nothing. But right now it looks like you might have overthought it because you're not playing but
at least ran it back one more time with Sam Darnold.
Try it again, right? Just slap the franchise tag on him and keep JJ on the bench. Who cares? Like, it's not like you can't make the money work.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. All right, let's end this week talking San Fran, Jacksonville. Certainly not a game that I saw going this way potentially. Jacksonville's defense has been very good through the better part of this season, right? We all thought Liam Cohen's coming in. All this offense is going to take this huge step. We're going to have this great offense, yada, yada, yada. Who's going to be the running back? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Brian Thomas has clearly been injured for, I think, a better part of this season and a hair off. We haven't seen the offensive production be on the level that we thought it was going to be. But yesterday, again, we kind of talked about it with the Bears a little bit. I mean, while the Niners are a better brand right now than the Raiders are, it's you came in, you went on the road, you got a tough, gritty win. It's just, this is one that makes your team start believing a little more. Obviously, I think you could be undefeated if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, but a couple of those were weird games, maybe not as great of opponents necessarily. And maybe the Niners aren't as good. They're probably not a top 10 team right now with how they currently stand and are with health wise. But they for the last 5-6 years, they've been a gold standard team, right? Hey, you got to go through the Niners, and they're tough to deal with. Jacksonville comes in here and plays a pretty good game. They made plenty of mistakes. They had a lot of penalties, but no turnovers, right? Niners turned it over 3 times, 4 times, something like that. Let a punt return, to the house, which was a backbreaker. A couple of questionable calls I didn't enjoy, but I'm also a Niners fan. Mm-hmm. I thought the pick from Stout was pretty clean on Travis Hunter there. The Travis Hunter thing's weird for the Jaguars. I don't know what you're doing with that guy. Seems like, you can't figure it out either. But ETN was great yesterday. and I thought Trevor was pretty good yesterday. Brock Purdy didn't look like he was all the way back. I mean, he threw for 309 yards and 2 touchdowns. The game-ending pick was that thing got tipped at the line. It was when it first came out, I'm like, God damn, what are you doing, man? Well, come on. But you can see that thing got affected a little bit. But that Jags D was pretty solid. Couple of dumb turnovers, like couple of like not dumb turnovers, but like the CMC interception in the beginning of the game, and then the other turnover in the beginning. Both of those were like kind of like that was a kind of more of a fluky turnover than like that was a terrible play.
Yeah.
So some things went right for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Once again, though, the Niners have no run game right now. I mean, Christian McCaffrey averaged 2.9 a carry. I mean, he's had 50 yards and 50 yards receiving and running each game, and he's been great in that. And I don't think it's necessarily McCaffrey's fault saying I don't think he's washed by any stretch of the imagination here. But the run game is not where it needs to be for your typical 49ers to be out there. They usually impose their will on you in that fashion, and it's not happening right now. You're not getting that. Now, they have some injuries on offense. You obviously lose Kittle right away. Pearsall's been in and out. Jennings has been in and out. Ayuk's not on the field. You're missing your rookie and Watkins, who was great, and you haven't seen Jacob Cowing, who was having a good camp. So, like, offensively, you got all these pieces that are kind of missing. Defensively, you got some pieces that are missing. It's your first game without Bosa. The bright news for San Fran is you have so many young players right now playing on defense, so many of them, and they're playing really, really well. Michael Williams looks like a stud. Alfred Collins looks good. The other D tackle looks pretty good. Siegel's playing a lot of snaps, right? And so eventually, all this thing is going to start gelling. Winters is playing out of his mind. Fred Warner's the best in the league. Bryce Huff is playing well. So there are some good things defensively for San Fran. Offensively, I think they'll figure it out. But hats off to Jacksonville in this one. And again, Trevor Lawrence is kind of like Dak. Obviously, he plays in the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I think Dak's a much better quarterback than Trevor is at this point. But Trevor takes a lot of shit because of the expectation that we had for him. And he's a solid quarterback. He's not great. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. He's not one of these great. He's not Herbert, which is like we thought he was going to be more of a Herbert, but he's not necessarily that. But he's a solid quarterback, and they're winning games. That's really what it comes down. Like Jacksonville's 3-1 for the first time in a very, very long time. So that's
right.
This is at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And just shout out to Travis Etienne again, and just suck at haters. That's really the biggest takeaway.
Yeah. Well, I was really, really zoned in on the Rams and Colts game, and so I knew you would be zoned in on the Niners. So I didn't watch this as diligently as I did a lot of other games. But it looked like Brock Purdy was running for his life, and it looked like that pass rush that helped the Jags win last week showed up again this week. And yes, I was a really good copy and paste from what we said about the Bears, and we literally compared those two last week about what Liam Cohen is trying to change as the Jaguars. And we really were talking about it more in the Travis Hunter vein of why, how things, I literally said if Travis Hunter fell into the Niners lap and that, Shanahan could make him work because everything's fine for the 49ers and it's a well-oiled machine versus what's going on with the Jags. So yes, Travis Hunter situation isn't working properly right now for the Jags, but they're 3-1. So who cares? Right. Yeah. We do because we play fantasy football, but I guarantee you Liam Cohen isn't sitting around going, man, this Travis Hunter thing isn't working out. They're 3-1. And that is all that matters for the Jags. So that's fantastic. You're right. Sucking haters on Travis Etienne. And you were pumping up Etienne all off season long when everybody else was slam dunking on him. So good for you. It was, I think I did what happened to Ricky Pearsall, right? He went out. He wasn't playing in the fourth quarter. I saw him on the sidelines.
Yeah, he came in injured and then, just had a catch on the sidelines that he tried to make. And I think it was just, little more banged up on the spot that you were already previously banged up in the knee. I mean, when you look at these targets, here's your targets for San Francisco: Jake Tungus, Ricky Pearsall, Jennings, Kyle Juszczyk, Demarcus Robinson, who just got back from suspension, Luke Farrell, Kendrick Bourne, who had a ginormous drop, and so did CMC, in this one, and Sky Moore. Like that's your target distribution right now for San Francisco.
Outside of with Christian McCaffrey's 11 targets, which there's nothing wrong with getting Christian McCaffrey 11 targets, but that just shows you, and that's fine. Christian McCaffrey's gotten 11 targets with a healthy Debo and Ayuk and Kittle on the field.
Sure.
That's fine. But there was a healthy Debo and Kittle and Ayuk on the field, so everybody was spread out. Like you talking about the run game right now, it's not. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's everything the Niners have, and then Ricky Pearsall comes in banged up and then doesn't play the fourth quarter. Maybe the 49ers figure out a way the game. If it's just like Tunges, if I'm even saying that last name correctly, and Kendrick Bourne, and this is Demarcus Robinson had a really big catch over the middle, but that's his first game he played with the team yet because he was suspended for a couple weeks, So like, and Jawan Jennings is out there being the ghost of himself, and then he makes a really good catch at the goal line and he gets slammed and he goes out holding his ribs. It's just like Brock Purdy might not have even, I don't know. It seemed like he was questionable. And then when they were Mac Jones
wasn't moving around like he normally moves around either.
Once they decided Mac Jones couldn't play, it's like, all right, well, Purdy's playing, but yes, maybe Purdy didn't play if Mac Jones was healthy enough to play. Who knows? But
you also have the Rams on Thursday.
Right. It's a much bigger win for the Jags than it is a loss for the Niners, but that's what we were talking about with the Niners being 3-0 coming in. It's just like they did with everything they had going on, and we talked about it, like the gutsy performances from Mac Jones. Getting those wins for this team was huge because now you're 3-1 and the sky's not falling. 1-3, right. You didn't make the playoffs last year. Right. Like how much did we talk about? Not we, but you and I had to spend some time in the offseason combating the conversations about the window closing for the Niners. The window for them winning is closing. And, a good startup young business and the Jags came in and played scrappy and got the W, but it was very, I wouldn't say it was close, but it was close enough, But
it was close. I mean,
Niners could have been 4-0, and the window was closed. Remember, the window was closed. So
it was
big time. I mean, the health is the issue, and to be 3-1 and to be had been this bit banged up, and of course after Thursday could easily be 3-2. And then you can say, well, Big Coach said they were 3-0 in the window, 3-1 in the window wasn't closed. But it's like, this is what the Niners,
Rams
they would have taken 3-1. Right. Yeah. They would have taken 3-1.
San Fran always, regardless, like it's kind of like they've kind of been the Rams daddy. And Shanahan's always got the best of McVay. But I think the Rams are better than the Niners right now. So I, certainly wouldn't be shocked if the Rams just beat the shit out of San Fran, but those guys know each other well. They know the strengths and weaknesses. But we gotta come in here. We gotta get a little healthier and see how this defense can play on kind of short rest. But that's really the biggest thing is like the way the window not closing on San Fran is having this big swarm of young defense come in here and play really well. And that's a big thing to keep in this kind of window open. They're not a Super Bowl team right now by any stretch of the imagination. You got to be able to run the ball. You got to be more consistent on offense, and you got a cast of characters right now catching footballs that isn't necessarily Pearsall's becoming a stud in his own right, but he's banged up, and we haven't seen Jawan Jennings be healthy all season.
Pearsall will be on the Dynasty buy list on the show tonight. Make sure you tune into the Dynasty show.
He was on here last week.
He's gonna buy him again.
Yeah. And like then, so, you get, again, Kendrick Bourne had a big drop, but I like what I'm seeing from Jacksonville defensively. Now evened up with Indy in that division. Do they have Indy next week? Who's Jacksonville got next week?
Ooh, quickness with it, Alex. Chiefs.
Yeah, that's a loss.
Chiefs, Seahawks, Rams. Yikes! 3 in a row for Jacksonville.
Yeah, they could certainly lose all 3 of those, but if
they could look out one of those and be 4-3, they would take that.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, this defense is playing at a very, very high level right now. And if Brian Thomas went down at one point in this game with maybe more wrist or finger issue, he did come back. You're going to need to get him going and get him more involved. But if you can keep this run game decent and you can keep your screen game going, and you can keep Trevor from making the really, really dumb plays, which has been my biggest problem with him. Is like he's a fine quarterback, but then he'll just be like, God damn, dude, what was that?
So Parker Washington had a return touchdown, right? Like that's like that's how many return touchdowns did we see sway games in the league this week?
Yeah, you gotta just figuring out parts and pieces, all three phases. Niners haven't been great on special teams for a couple of years now. So anyway, before we get out of here, I did want to just give Sam Darnold some more love, because I think Sam's playing really well. I think the Seahawks are going to be just tougher and tougher out as time goes on. That defense is really good. I know everybody's given Arizona a tough time right now, but that's a really difficult defense to deal with. They're going to continue getting better and better as things go on. JSN didn't even have a great game, but I think Sam continued to play well. I liked Kyler Murray consistently gets shit on, but I thought Kyler was decent, and I don't know that he's necessarily advanced, and maybe Kyler's somebody that I don't think this offense is best formulated for Kyler Murray either, right? This isn't like a great offense for Kyler Murray to really come in here and thrive. But I think I've equated it to the Roman era with sort of Lamar Jackson, right? Can we get back to some basics, run the ball, do this, do that, play the position, and then maybe Kyler has to go somewhere else to really get completely back to unlocked, or maybe Kyler just doesn't give a shit. I don't know, but I think I think Kyler's a fine player as well. I think we do this a lot, and we shit on guys because they're not as good as we expect them to be. And couple of tough stretches for Marv here through the back half of the Niners game, and then in this game he had a rough stretch. But I gotta say I've never been more excited for the second half box score for Marvin Harrison. Like, that was just nice to see that they went back to him. Had like 6 catches in the second half, had that big touchdown. You saw that it meant a lot to him. He's definitely struggling with some shit right now. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe there's some stuff going on in his personal life. Maybe he just feels an immense amount of pressure and is just, is blowing it a little bit. But it's, again, in this game of fantasy football that we're playing with, or if you're a Cardinals fan or whatever it is, like, have some patience with my guy right now. Like, I know there's other guys out there that come in and absolutely crush it, but he's getting open. He's got to convert on a couple of things. And as things go, I don't think Marvin Harrison is in the bust range by any means just yet. And I think we saw in the second half of that game what he can be, and what he will be for this team. So I was excited to see Marv have such a terrible first half and such a great second half. And really, I don't know, Big D a while ago, I think it might have been on a Patreon or maybe in a group chat of just like, hey, you could see by what Marv talking in press conferences or somebody else that it seems like he's battling demons. And that's what it looks like right now. And so I don't know if that big contested catch helped him get over some of that hump. But it's not that he's a bad receiver by any means in any stretch of the imagination. He's a good player. And hopefully we can get the QJ out of his system. And Quentin Johnson was another one. Like, we shunned that guy to the wayside. But it wasn't because he couldn't play. It was because he was having trouble reeling him in. You got the yips.
Really good comparison. That's a really good comparison there, Casey. Outside of the expectations, like, there's a couple. There's a lot to unpack there, and I'll make it quick because we got to go. But like, the Quentin Johnson resurgence this year is a really good comparison to what Marvin Harrison could be showing us next week, next year, whatever. But like, Quentin Johnson didn't come in the league with the pressure, like the demons, whatever. Like, Marvin Harrison's daddy is a Hall of Famer, and if he wasn't first ballot, he might have been first ballot, but if he wasn't, he could have been. We're kind of stingy with this first ballot stuff, but Marvin Harrison made magic with Peyton Manning for a long time. So, and Marvin Harrison carried that weight, and he was, the NFL wide receiver in college, right? He was the guy that can't miss. He's the best wide receiver prospect ever. He has all the tools, whatever. And some people are victory lapping anything they could have said negative about him in the draft process. But the Seahawks killed them for three quarters. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't go back and even watch I went to bed at halftime. The Seahawks handled them. And I don't know I assume it was prevent defense in the second half, and the Cardinals came back and scored some points. But then at some point, I'm sure the Seahawks were like, well, we would rather them not tie it up at 20-20. So I'm not giving all of the credit to the Seahawks defense being in prevent. The Cardinals must have done something right. It's a difference between giving up garbage time points on prevent defense and actually letting the score get tied. So, and then Seahawks had to go, Sam Darnold let them down there for the game-winning field goal. But like the half of the game that I saw, like you said, it wasn't just like, yes, in the last, Marvin Harrison's doing himself no favors with the drops. And so that only magnifies pressure, but you're coming out, your name is Marvin Harrison, you're a top 5 pick or whatever, like the pressure's there, and then with some big time drops doesn't help anything. But he also has a Kyler Murray problem. There is no doubt about it. He's got a Kyler Murray problem. So like but if we're dynasty fantasy football, Marvin Harrison is a great buy low because people hate him, and and if especially the point of purchase, the opportunity cost to own him in the last 12 months or whatever in dynasty fantasy football, he was expensive. So he could be a really good person for the buy show, but like I said it last week, I don't enjoy watching the Cardinals play offense on football and play offense. And then, but outside of peppering Trey McBride, and it just it didn't look any better in the first half against the Seahawks. Like I said, I didn't go back and watch the second half, but yes, I think again outside of the draw, like Marvin Harrison probably gets way more hate than he should. It's expectations. It's expectations not only from him personally on the field with his last name, it's expectations out of us, that all the people that are talking, because we want our fantasy football points in bunches and we expect it. And it's expectations in a lot of different angles there. But yeah, I mean, glad he got the touchdown, glad he got some production. Of course, the Cardinals didn't want to lose, but they're 2-2 and they lost against a good Seahawks team. The Seahawks are good. I think that's what you started with, Sam Darnold and the Seahawks.
I think the Seahawks are super underrated. And I saw some people being like, oh, Trey Benson's got a good matchup this week against Seattle. Like, that's just absolutely not true. Don't worry about what Trey Benson did this week. The Seattle's filthy with their defense. But me and Chev spent a lot of time talking about Kyler and this offense. And, I don't think it's a good marriage. I don't know that the play caller is the best. I do think they can win some football games. I think they're a decent team. But my whole thing is like, we just, at the end of this game, that's what we saw in this game is just what we need to see from Marv. Just, I need 8 to 10 targets next to his name. I need 8 to 10 targets next to, and it may not be the best offense for either one of those guys. I need 8 to 10 targets next to Trey McBride's name. And it may not be best offense for Kyler or Marv necessarily, but if I just need Marv and Trey to be the guys who go out there every week and get 8 to 10 targets a game, that's really all we need to see. And I felt confident that that's kind of what could happen this year. And if Marv just brings in 2 or 3 more catches than he did in the last 2 games that were there, his stat lines look a whole lot better. And obviously Malik Neighbors got hurt. But outside of the Malik Neighbors game against Dallas, they're the comparison. That's why I'm comparing the two. Malik Neighbors hasn't had a good season either, and regardless of where you're putting the blame on that, but we have equity built up for Neighbors because he was getting 1 million targets for 10 games last year, and obviously was awesome with it. And Marv was over here, having a couple of games like this where you're like, damn, what the hell's going on with him?
Yeah, well, like just the targets. I mean, targets and combined with the production of Neighbors, like he had a bad game before he got hurt in week 3, but coming into when the game started, he was leading the league in reception yards. But and that obviously in 2-game sample, in a game where he crushed the Cowboys defense, being Neighbors, But like, so we had not been sitting around, and then Neighbors finished the season last year on a tear. So like you said, there was a lot of equity built up for Neighbors, and the obvious comparison is Neighbors and Marvin Harrison. And yes, Neighbors was winning that.
Obviously he should be. I'm just saying that was the debate of the 2 guys, because one went before the other one, and they should have taken this. And I don't know that Malik Neighbors would be doing anything different than Marvin Harrison is doing in Arizona. Not if
Kyler's his quarterback.
I don't think. you know, and I'm not putting this all on, like, I think Kyler's a fine quarterback. I don't know if this suits him. Like, I mean, I don't think we go from, like, look at what Jaden Daniels and them boys are doing in the Cliff Kingsbury offense when he's the OC over there. Like, that's more stylistically of what's going to fit what Kyler Murray wants to do, not necessarily what Petzing wants to do. You know, and I don't know that this is the best marriage, but I think Marv can be fine regardless of it, as long as the target share stays good, in which that's what they need to be doing.
Sure. Well, they need that was a good call out, because Kyler had Kingsbury
and he was awesome.
He was good in fantasy, and they were bad
they won
franchise.
Games.
They've lost more than they won.
They won games in the beginning of it when everything was new with what was going on, and then Kyler had some injuries.
That's where I was going with it. It was Kingsbury got a really, at that time, it was, you know, fair ridicule about his offense is growing stale. And we literally talked about that last year when they got started with Jaden Daniels, and it didn't. And then this year, you know, obviously Daniels has been hurt.
He takes more than a year to get you know, we'll see.
Well,
you know,
but I'm just saying, like, maybe if Kingsbury and Kyler were playing now, like, can we not just say that maybe Kingsbury learned? Right.
Sure,
you know,
exactly.
So, like, I'm just like, if Kingsbury and Kyler Murray were back together now, what would it be like? It's a different, he's running a little bit different offense, but maybe he's, you know, running to Jaden, you know, Daniels' strengths, and maybe he would play, maybe be different with Kyler. But
yeah, well, let's not pretend the first 2 games of Jaden Daniels were awesome this year either.
Well, just one of the biggest part for me is the Kyler, like, Kyler's, it's not happened just once. It's been multiple times. He's at the podium and he's like, I don't know what to tell you about Marvin Harrison. It is what it is. Like, that's not, you know, like, I know just that's a Kyler problem. Like, you're supposed to stand up there and say something different. Right.
Yeah. I don't think we've gotten that recently from him.
We got it 2 weeks ago, dude. I'm saying,
I saw so many times where he went to bat and he talked about how much Marv loves stuff and how Marv will be fine. We're continuing to work on things, and you know, I'm not gonna go there with that right this minute.
But he gave it to us.
I think they've got a good. I think they've got. I've seen plenty of times where there was a lot of positivity between the two of them, and that they're, you know, he's young, they're working it out, they're figuring it out.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's walking around every day on a day-to-day basis. I'm just saying, when you get your shot, you're sitting in front of the media after a ball game, you know, and they're asking you questions, and they're like, "How come Marvin Harrison can't get going? It's just, maybe, like, I'm just saying, if I could have my wishes, he would say something different than it is what it is. You know, you just channel your inner Peyton Manning and be like, yeah, that's my guy. We're going to watch this. It's fine. Watch this. You know, like, something. Give me something.
Yeah, I mean, but I've seen him say that. I've seen him be like, "Hey, we're going to keep going back to Marv. Marv's going to be fine." Like, so, you know, I think you got a different era of human, and he's not even close to the same person as Peyton Manning or any. I know.
Of those guys, just you know, you could name anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it.
Any good quarterback outside of Russell Wilson, and you're fine, right?
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's wrap up this week. We'll catch you guys next week. Appreciate you guys. Peace.